It's a clear night over the Midwest. Flight 472 carrying exactly 222 passengers and crew. Everything normal until the cockpit alarms start their relentless beeping. The captain's strained voice comes over the speakers, announcing a critical system failure, and then in the midst of the growing panic, an 11-year-old boy grabs the yoke, takes control, and suddenly the air traffic control tower goes completely silent on the radio. How on earth could this happen? What secret did this child hold that turned the impossible into a miracle? If you're scrolling, stop right now because this story will grip your heart in ways you didn't expect. Let me introduce you to Alex. He was your average 11-year-old, the kind who gets overlooked in a crowd. Skinny frame, messy brown hair, always wearing that faded blue hoodie. He sat in seat 14A on this long flight home with his mom, Sarah, who was dozing lightly beside him. In his lap, he held tight to his anchoring object, that old pocket watch from his grandfather. It was nothing special, really. Scratched silver case, a tiny engraved airplane on the back that his late father had added before he passed. The watch ticked softly, a constant companion. Earlier, as they boarded, Alex had looked up at his mom and asked in that quiet, hopeful voice, "Mom, do you think Dad would have let me sit in the cockpit if he was here?" She smiled tiredly and ruffled his hair. Alex's real training came from his grandfather, Captain Elias, a retired airline pilot who had seen it all in his 40 years in the skies. After Alex's father, also a pilot, died in a training accident when Alex was just 7, Elias stepped in. Those long summer days weren't filled with video games. Instead, Elias set up an old flight simulator in the garage, teaching Alex the basics: how to read instruments, feel the controls, understand the wind. "Listen, kid," Elias would say during those sessions, pausing to adjust the dials. "The sky doesn't care about your age, Alex. It only cares if your hands are steady and your heart knows the way." That prophetic line became Alex's mantra, repeated like a prayer during tough moments. The world of the plane that night felt alive and full. The cabin was dimly lit, overhead lights casting soft glows on rows of passengers. Families heading home, business travelers tapping on laptops, a few kids giggling in the back. The air smelled of coffee and recycled oxygen, the engines humming steadily beneath it all. Flight attendants moved gracefully, offering snacks with warm smiles. But there was this subtle atmosphere, a hint of something off. Alex had spotted the co-pilot looking unusually pale during the pre-flight checks. His steps a bit unsteady, but in the bustle, it faded into the background. Foreshadowing, you might call it, the small signs building toward the storm. The crisis unfolded in stages, each one chipping away at the calm. It began with a small, wrong note. The plane gave a slight shudder, almost imperceptible, and the captain announced a minor adjustment to avoid turbulence. Passengers shifted, some murmuring. Then the crack started to widen. A louder vibration, the lights flickering once, twice. Whispers turned to concerned questions. "Is everything okay?" someone asked a passing attendant. Finally, the full emergency crashed down. The intercom crackled to life with the captain's urgent tone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've experienced a major hydraulic failure. Prepare for an emergency landing." Panic spread like ripples. Seatbelts clicking, hands clutching, soft cries from children. Stay with me here, because what Alex did next challenges everything we believe about courage and capability in the face of fear. When the flight attendant banged on the cockpit door for assistance, Alex stood up, his small frame determined despite his mom's frantic pulling at his sleeve. "I know what to do," he insisted, voice steady but young. "Grandpa taught me everything." At first, nobody believed him. The attendant shook her head, a nervous laugh escaping. "Sweetheart, this is serious. Sit down." Resistance came in layers, other passengers nearby scoffing quietly. "He's just a boy, what can he do?" Even the weak voice of the co-pilot from inside the door echoed doubt. "We need experienced help." But Alex didn't back down. He proved his knowledge right there in the aisle, demonstrating by explaining key procedures without hesitation. For hydraulic loss, we use manual reversion, set the trim for 250 knots, monitor the standby instruments. Details no kid should know poured out, convincing them enough to open that door. Once inside, chaos greeted him. The captain slumped unconscious, co-pilot fading fast. As Alex climbed into the seat, his pocket watch slipped from his pocket onto the instrument console, its face catching the glow of the panels, the anchoring object now shifting meaning from a comforting keepsake to a silent guardian in the storm. And now, let's slow this down, live through it, in real time, every heartbeat, every breath drawn out. Alex's small hands, still a bit shaky from adrenaline, wrapped firmly around the yoke. His breath came in quick, shallow bursts, chest rising and falling rapidly. The plane was in a slow left yaw, nose dipping gradually, the artificial horizon tilting on the display. Feet barely reaching the rudder pedals, he adjusted his position. Body tense. "Okay, Grandpa, steady hands," he whispered to himself, echoing that prophetic line internally. First things first. Assessment. Altimeter reading 27,500 feet and descending at 1,200 feet per minute. Engines responsive, but controls sluggish without hydraulics. He began step by step. Movements deliberate. With one hand steady on the yoke, he reached for the throttle quadrant, easing both levers back slightly to reduce speed, feeling the plane respond with a subtle vibration through his palms. His other hand flipped the standby power switch, confirming instruments were online. The tower's silence on the radio was eerie. Maybe they were coordinating ground response, or stunned into quiet. Flight 472 declaring emergency. Alex keyed the mic, his young voice cracking slightly over the airwaves. Turbulence hit then, a crisis within the crisis, the plane jolting hard, shaking Alex's whole body, teeth chattering briefly before he gripped tighter, correcting with tiny aileron inputs, left then right, leveling the wings. An unexpected tenderness broke through the intensity when his eyes caught a small family photo of the crew taped near the window. It reminded him of his own dad, bringing a momentary softness to his focused expression, a quick swallow against the lump in his throat. Passengers felt it too. The plane stabilized a notch, murmurs of hope filtering back. He monitored speed carefully, holding at 210 knots, adjusting pitch for a controlled descent. Body reactions were constant, sweat trickling down his back, legs quivering from the awkward reach, but determination kept him going. "Come on, hold steady," he muttered, voice trailing off as he tweaked the elevator trim wheel slowly, one click at a time. The final approach stretched endlessly. Runway lights pierced the darkness like beacons of hope. Crosswind pushed from the side, forcing Alex to crab the aircraft, aligning the nose imperfectly but effectively. "Flaps to 20, he said aloud, though no one responded. Touchdown came with a hard thump, tires screeching against asphalt, the plane bouncing once before settling. Reverse thrust engaged with a roar, brakes applied gradually to avoid skidding. They veered a bit off the center line but halted safely within the runway's bounds. Imperfect, scarred by the ordeal, but true. All 222 souls safe on the ground. In the aftermath, as the plane came to a full stop, the tension released from Alex's small body all at once. His hands slipped from the yoke, fingers numb and trembling, a long exhale escaping his lips. The revived captain, voice hoarse, was the first to speak. That was you? Incredible work, son." Skeptics from the cabin, those who had resisted earlier, now offered quiet reckonings. Claps starting slow, turning into relieved applause. Official response followed swiftly, paramedics boarding, ground crew securing, news of the miracle spreading fast but with care for the passengers' shock. No major harm, just the emotional weight. Alex reunited with his grandfather at the terminal later that night, Elias wrapping him in a bear hug, whispering praises through tears. That old pocket watch, now bearing fresh scuffs from its time on the console, reappeared in Alex's hand during the quiet moment. Its meaning evolved once more, from toy-like memento to emblem of a legacy carried forward. Weeks later, back in their quiet suburban home, ordinary routines resumed, but everything felt different, sharper somehow. Alex sat on the porch swing with Elias one evening, the sky painted in soft oranges. Grandpa, why did it have to be me up there? He asked, fiddling with the watch. Elias paused, eyes distant, then offered his reframing answer. Because the sky chooses those who listen, Alex. You had the heart for it. Here's a question for you to ponder and maybe drop in the comments. If you were that underestimated 11-year-old, with lives hanging in the balance and adults doubting your every word, would you step up despite the fear, or hold back to avoid the risk of making things worse? It's a moral dilemma with no easy answers, but sharing your thoughts might just inspire someone else. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of the quiet heroes among us, then hit that thumbs up, share this video with a friend who needs a boost of hope today, and subscribe to Z Stories so you never miss these emotional journeys that celebrate the best in humanity. And in the end, it's that young boy standing tall on the tarmac, pocket watch clutched close, gazing up at the vast sky that had tested him and found him ready.